Hi everyone, I think this is working. I hope. I haven't used Screencastify for a while. So this is just another software with which I do videos for the course. I'm doing a short, let me just check the sound as well, just to make sure that we've got optimal sound. Okay, this is probably better. I'm doing this short video because I'm starting to have questions about assignment 2, and it's normal that you should have a need for clarifications. So I just thought I'd give you a sort of voiceover of the assignment 2 directives, and that it would be a lot easier to do than answer individual questions. So what I've seen so far in terms of questions, people asking me, can I use something I did in class? Can I use something I've seen? And that all works, but don't forget this is an assignment, so I need to be able to go back to the source project. So it has to be something that has been documented somehow. So it can't just be something that you rely on about which you rely on your memories or your perceptions. It's got to be something that maybe has a website, maybe a paper's been written about it, maybe simply a blog or something, but something that we can go back to and actually see the source that you're using to assess the program. So that would be the only requirement, but it can be something that you've got a personal connection with. Obviously, it can be something that you've experienced or you've tried or you've run in your class or that you've been part of. But it does need that sort of universally documented dimension before you can, you've got to be able to source it basically and reference it. You can produce this assignment in any format that you wish. It's not a format that is assessing your academic writing. It's just a format that's assessing your skills about synthesizing what we've done so far and applying it to a real life case. So you can do podcasts, you can do PowerPoint, you can do PowerPoint with voiceover. You can do whatever you want really. It doesn't really affect the way the rubric are going to be able to be applied. You will, though, need to discuss the literature. So whichever format you're choosing, a key element here is that you're going back on, you're operating sort of reflection on what we've done so far on global education in terms of definitions and on global citizenship. So you will need to refer to some readings and you will need a bibliography. So if you're doing a PowerPoint, obviously you can put the bibliography as the last slide. If you're doing a podcast, a video, or something like that, you can just attach the bibliography as a separate Word doc, and that's totally fine. And shouldn't alter your enthusiasm for doing other formats. It's just then you provide the bibliography separately. So I think the best way to approach this is to think about my intentions behind the assignment. My intentions behind the assignments at this stage in week 5 is that we've looked at global education, we looked at how complex it is, and already now you're seeing that we can't have a unified definition. All you best you can hope for is that you are coming up with a working definition that works for you and that refers back to very specific authors, sort of writing and definitions. And they'll vary slightly depending on who you're choosing and who you're aligning yourself with. We've seen the same for global citizenships, that it's defined sometimes in very hazy ways. So by now you're probably already sort of crystallizing your thought around specific authors, specific readings you've done, specific definitions you picked up in those readings. And that's totally fine. So this project really is in week 5. It's to allow you to take all this, take this reflection, show me that you're feeling empowered as to the material you've read. You're coming to certain definitions as to who you're going to align yourself with and who you're going to use in terms of literature, and then you're applying this to a real case. It's always good, so things don't remain too conceptual, that you actually have a look in the real world and see what this means. So this is exactly what this assignment is. It's basically an opportunity for us to stop, recap on what we've done in terms of literature, have a look into the real world, and actually pick something that fits these definitions that we've looked at so far and that have been a little bit conceptual. So you're going to pick up a project. You're going to, first of all, this week look at, find some info. So whether you're doing on the web or you're reading or you're doing all sorts of things. And then you are going to tell me to what extent it sort of embeds this notion of global education, global citizenship using the definitions that you've picked up from your readings. And then you're going to assess it in terms of how successful it's been. So you're looking at the successes and the limitations. And obviously, there's always going to be some discussions because, as we've seen, the definitions themselves are sometimes a little hazy, which always gives us a little bit of room in terms of discussion to wonder how we could do things better, or we could align projects better with the notion of global education and global citizenship. So that's it, really. It shouldn't be too hard. It's really, it's not a writing project, as I said. It's really a hands-on synthesis first of what you've done so far, and then application to a real-world example. So your critical thinking in terms of recognizing things that you've discussed conceptually, but recognizing them done in a practical example. So you've got the assignment directives there. I use this to mark you, so it's always good to get the rubrics there and actually follow the wording of the rubric to see whether you fall into that. It's always good to recap that before you submit to make sure that because that's the basis on which I will mark you. But also the expectations are always there, so it's always good sort of checklist to see that you've done all this. Explore the field of global education, K-12 or post-secondary or further education or early education. You've got a complete choice there. Gather information about projects, objectives, success, and format. That's what you're doing this week. You're doing basically fact search, and you're collecting information. I should mention we don't do ethics clearance for this, and we are not considering this as a real live research project. So you should not contact individuals or organizations to collect data from them or interview them in any way, because if you did, we would require student ethics. Which would slow this down. We wouldn't be able to do this within 12 weeks. So any secondhand information is fine. And even if you did contact someone, like an info email on a project, you can contact them, but then make it very clear that you're not interviewing them. You're just collecting data that they might have handy, that's already there and that they're able to give you. It's a subtle difference, but it's very important that we think of ethics when we do this kind of project. You assess the limitations of the project, and I think that's going to be fairly easy because we can always do better, because those definitions are very ambitious sometimes, and we can't always really document or evidence that we've done as much as we always intend to do in this field of global education. But the important part for me there as well is you're going to look at global education, global citizenship, to some extent global competencies too, and look at the literature that we've seen so far and see to what extent you recognize it in there and which specific authors and which specific definitions, because by now you're sort of finding your way and deciding who you're going to be quoting and citing. And then students share this on Moodle. So again, think of size. If you're using videos and things like this, then you've got to maybe load it to YouTube, so they use a link, a hyperlink, as opposed to loading large documents, because this will create problems on Moodle. And they've limited you at 500 megabytes, I think. And it's not much. And as soon as you put a couple of photos or video, it basically blocks you. So that's it. I hope I've answered most questions. But if I haven't, then feel free to send me individual emails. But I wanted to try this first so that I can address most questions and then only tackle the remaining ones by email. So again, it's got to be a project you can document and source. I, as the marker, have to be able to go back and see, that this really exists and where does it exist and how is it run, so that I can see how your assessment of it is going. You've got to go back to the literature and make active use of the literature we've encountered so far in terms of global education, global citizenship, to some extent global competencies, although we're halfway there. But certainly cite specific authors, specific definitions that you're using. And you can provide this in any format you like, but you do need to provide a bibliography. Okay, so I wish you well, and I'll do probably another little short video this week before the Collaborate session on Sunday, and I will recap on global competencies. See you soon.